All right, let's get started. Thank you so much. Good afternoon and good morning to those who are joining us today. And welcome to our webinar, Goal-Based Investing in the UAE, where we'll be sharing key insights from our quantitative research that was done by InvestSuite in partnership with Franklin Templeton. My name is Joyce Chu, and I am leading sales structuring at InvestSuite, and I will be your beginning host today. Just on the next slide. So today we've got an agenda that we'll get through so that we can share our insights with you. First, a brief introduction from myself, as well as Michelle from Franklin Templeton, and then we will go into the key insights from the research that we've been speaking about. And lastly, what does that research mean? What does it mean for the essential components of a digital wealth or robo proposition? So I'll go ahead and introduce Michelle Karkour. He is Business Development Manager in Dubai, working at our partners, Franklin Templeton. Take it away, Michelle.
Thank you, Joyce. And thank you, everyone, for joining us this afternoon. As Joyce mentioned, my name is Michelle Karkour. I'm the sales manager based out of the Dubai office for Franklin Templeton. By ways of introduction, for those that may not know Franklin Templeton, we are essentially an asset management company with over 75 years of experience, but we've always had a pioneering spirit, so we've built a diversified set of capabilities over the years with the objective to remain relevant for the next 75 years. That means being relevant in the digital wealth space, which is really the next frontier. Based on our investment DNA, today, we offer a range of digital wealth solutions customized to our clients' needs. We're very ambitious and committed to push the digital boundaries and support the growth of the space. So we've set up strategic investment pools, incubator programs, and dedicated resources and partnerships to promote the wealth tech and fintech companies around the world. Joyce, I'll turn it over back to you.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Michelle. Before actually I dive into a brief intro on InvestSuite, if there are any questions, either for Michelle, myself, or Sven later on during his talk, please feel free to drop them into the Q&A box. We will try and collect them and then respond to them at the end of the session if we have time. If not, we'll definitely be sending communications to those who ask questions, and we can also share the rest of the group's questions as well. So feel free to drop them in the Q&A box and we will get to them when we can. So first, a little bit about InvestSuite. So InvestSuite is a business-to-business white label invest tech provider. We offer a suite of solutions, which I'll touch on quickly here, ranging from investment platforms to portfolio construction and optimization tools, all the way to investment insights and reporting for engagement. Just on the next slide there, Sven. So really our goal is, while we are a B2B company, is to help financial institutions and the like realize any wealth transformation or investment management transformation journeys. And while we are B2B, we still have a great focus on creating the most delightful investing experiences for the end customers. So you'll hear that a lot about that from Sven today, that while our clients will be institutions like yourselves, our focus really still is on that end customer, because for those to adopt digital investing, that experience needs to be user-friendly and human-centric. And so on the next slide, you'll see at InvestSuite, we believe we've got this perfect blend of skill sets, where on one side, we've got bankers, we've got computer scientists, mathematicians, quants, etc., that work on our innovation, work on our technology. And we couple that with amazing creativity, where we've got creative designers, Imagineers, digital product designers, and the like. And at the intersect of that is actually behavioral science or behavioral finance. And so if we go to the next slide, where I can go ahead and introduce our next topic, that's that perfect intersect where we're doing research to provide insights into how we can build, effective user journeys for our clients. So I'd like to introduce Sven Moons, who is our customer insights expert at InvestSuite, and he's also the author of our Insights series, which you can find on our website or we can share subsequently. He specializes really in studying the human wants and needs with regards to finance and investing. All right, take it away, Sven.
Okay, thank you very much, Joyce. Talking about goal-based investing, I think it's important to start with this very simple truism here on the screen, namely that the ultimate purpose of any financial advice, whether it's given by a human being or a robo advisor, really is to find that perfect match between the specific needs of a client and also the financial product that will fulfill this need. Now, financial institutions, I think, already are very good at this from a technical point of view, using models, creating forecast scenarios, taking into account a number of elements like invested amounts and time horizon, risk profile, and so on. And I think that basically at private banks, for instance, also wealth managers are also intuitively very good at dealing with the psychology of goal setting and goal pursuit. Really getting to know their clients, their motivations and the goals, finding out what they are prepared to do for those goals and so forth. But how do you translate these kind of soft skills of a wealth manager into a digital experience? How do you deal with the very human experience of setting a goal and pursuing a goal, when you design a digital investment solution? What we know is that there's already a vast body of academic work on the whole psychology of goal setting and goal pursuit. And we also see a lot of very good examples of how those psychological insights are being put to practice, for instance, in fitness apps. Maybe some of you use Strava or Runkeeper, those kind of things that really help you. And for instance, this one, it's called Zova. And it's really these kind of apps that really manage to engage people, to help them set their goals, what is it that you want to achieve, and then use a lot of very smart tactics to help people stay engaged and motivated towards their goal. And this is exactly what we at InvestSuite and also at Franklin Templeton aim to do. It's what we want to do as well, design digital experiences and digital investment tools that are sensitive to this very human experience of goal setting and goal pursuit. And that's what we're doing. Now, we designed those tools based on research, obviously, such as this one. This is an example of a large-scale survey we did last spring with about 800 investors in the Emirates. And the purpose of the survey was to find out more about how retailers think about their goals, their investment goals, and also how they intend to pursue those goals. And in the next 20 minutes or so, I'll share with you how we approach the research, the underlying psychological models that we used, and also share some of the key findings, of course. I'll move through these findings really quickly. So if you want to know more, we can refer to the white paper that you can download, and you can read all about it. Right. So the main model that we use to structure our survey is called the Rubicon model of action phases. It is developed in the second half of the 1980s by two German psychologists. The model, in fact, describes successful goal pursuit as performing 4 consecutive tasks in 4 phases. And so we built our survey around this model, and the model basically was the backbone in order for us to make sense of the whole process of, starting with choosing an investment goal, planning for your goal, acting towards your goal, and then finally, evaluating your goal pursuit and how well you performed. And I'd like to walk you through these step by step. So the first phase, as you can see here, is all about this. It says here the pre-decisional phase. It's all about choosing. It's about thinking about all your wishes and desires, about weighing the pros and cons, finding out what's really important to you personally, and then trying to translate that into a real goal. So actually articulating what it is that you want. Now, it's important here to be clear about, when we talk about these things, be clear about the definition of the word goal. And for the research, we use this definition on the screen here by a man named Lawrence Pervin. And now the consequence that you can read here of using this definition is that we have to see goals really as being at the center of a hierarchical structure, right? And the effect there in the definition in red that actually points upwards to the personal and the important motivation for choosing a goal, right? It refers to what is called a superordinate goal, so a higher order goal. The action element there points downward to the concrete means or the activities or the steps that you have to take in order to reach your goal. So it refers to lower order, or in this case, subordinate goals. And so this definition allows us to structure investment goals in a framework where there will obviously be like fewer super higher order motivations for investing at the top, and many more subordinate or action goals at the bottom. Now, a lot of private banks you see all over the world basically use these pyramid-shaped frameworks, for investment goals. Very often they're based on Maslow's famous hierarchy of needs. What we did was use another framework. It has a circular shape, and it's called the universal psychological structure of human values. Sounds pretty heavy, but it is not. The word values here really can be understood as motivations, or the superordinate goals that I just talked about. And the model is circular because unlike a pyramid, really it's a continuum. And I will explain it's built on two opposing axes, right? One axis opposes the human desire for self-enhancement, right? So making your life better, right? This is a very human need. People say, I want to enhance my situation. The other need, what it opposes actually, is a need for self-transcendence. It's not about making your life better, but making the lives of others better. For instance, your children, your family, etc. The second axis opposes an openness to change with conservation values. So this dimension really captures this conflict that people have, on the one hand, a desire for change, and on the other hand, a desire for preservation and maintaining the status quo, which could also be very much applied to wealth. Now, in the continuum, the model then distinguishes between 9 universal motivations, and each of these can then in turn basically be linked to more specific investment goals. I'll give you a few examples, like a conformity goal, which you see on the right. That could be, I invest to maintain my wealth and protect it from inflation. That would be a conformity goal. A security goal could be, I invest to guarantee financial stability and cover potential risks. Or on the opposite side, on the top left side there, self-direction goal could be invest to have the financial means to live how we want after retirement, right? Choose yourself and so forth. And this is the model as such. But what actually motivates the investments of people in the Emirates? Well, what we found on those 770 people taking part in the survey is nearly, or exactly actually, 2/3 of all investments in UAE are motivated by either a need for achievement or a need for benevolence. And let's dive deeper into these two specific motivations. Achievement, or achievement motivation, and achievement goals are about demonstrating competence, personal success. And the psychology behind it says that it strongly associates with concepts like ambition, capability, intelligence, influence, social recognition. These are the motivations, or the description of the motivations. The exact goals that we put forward to clients, or the ones that about 39% of people almost ticked here, was making more money and seeing my capital grow. And the other one was gaining a higher return with higher risk investments. So those were the two things that motivated the most. Interesting fact is that this achievement motivation decreases with age. So what we found is that 43% of the Gen Z population, that's up to say 26, 27 years of age, they're motivated by achievement. It also decreases with financial maturity. So we found that the less the investor is experienced, the more he will be motivated by achievement. And it decreases also with wealth. So the less wealthy, the more the investor will be achievement driven. Let's look at the other one, benevolence goal. 27% of investors are motivated in the Emirates by benevolence. And benevolence, they're all about welfare of what is called the primary group, or the family, right? They're strongly associated with concepts like belonging, loyalty, support, love, and feeling responsible for others within that family or that primary group. I'll show you the two specific investment goals that people here selected, or 27% of them selected. The first one is supporting my family financially and help them get on in life. And the second one is leaving a heritage for my family. Interesting side note there is that from that 27%, about 21% of the respondents aim to transfer or aim to say that, or said that their aim was to transfer their wealth whilst they were alive, and just 6% intend to do so after death. So it's very different from what we see in Europe. Another side note is, and worth mentioning here, I think, is that where in Europe we saw that people invest almost uniquely for their children, so for the next generation, investors in the UAE do so in equal measure for children, but for instance also for aging parents. Why is it so important to know what motivates investors when you're building a digital investment tool? Well, superordinate goals, they really provide the necessary context, and they also give meaning to goal-directed behavior, right? Making clients self-conscious, reminding them of the why will energize their goal commitment. And you can do that, for instance, by allowing people to add images to their portfolios, to talk to them about their family, or maybe talk to them about achievement, having specific types of graphs that really stress achievements, etc., etc. And you can see here from the graph that reasons why are very different in different regions. If you compare, for instance, the EU and the UAE, here you see that the picture is different, where the majority of EU investors are more security, conformity, and self-direction driven. All right. Now, the percentages that you just saw on the last slide showed the investment goal priorities of respondents in our survey, right? These are the #1 goals, and what is often in literature referred to as chronic goals. However, people have obviously multiple goals, and how many depends on how you ask the question. The graph that you see here shows the results from a longitudinal study by a researcher called Lee in the US, and she found that 82% of US households have just 1 or 2 investment goals. Now, among the 100 respondents that we asked to describe their goals in our research, like in an open input field, like really write them down, this number is actually higher. So 96% of these investors just have 1 or 2 goals with an average of 1.3 on average. However, if the respondents in our survey were able to select goals from a closed list that we provided them a list of 19 potential goals all over the spectrum. They had 4 goals on average, and it's just 28% selected only 1 or 2 goals, and you can see it in the blue distribution curve that it is much different. We actually saw the exact same thing in Europe and in other countries and regions where we did this research. And what we see is that it seems basically that investors have a lot of trouble articulating their goals, and that in many cases, I think goals are not really revealed during onboarding, but elicited when people start thinking about it. So when you onboard a client to a digital investment tool, I think a smart choice architecture becomes an absolute must-have. So what we've learned so far is that UAE investors have about 4 investment goals on average, that their chronic goals are most often motivated by either a need for achievement or a need for a benevolence. But let's add a few more layers of insight on top of this and start with this concept here. It's called regulatory focus. The regulatory focus theory was first proposed by Professor Higgins at Columbia University, and he showed that people can pursue the same goal with different orientations or in different ways. And the orientation can be either promotion focused, which means that the goal is experienced as like a hope or an aspiration, or the orientation can be prevention focused, which means that the goal is experienced as a duty or an obligation. And what he wrote down in his thesis was that when people pursue a goal in a way that fits their orientation, they experience what is called regulatory fit. And simply put, regulatory fit is just feeling right about what you're doing. Now, why is this important? It's important because there's evidence that regulatory fit makes people more positive in their evaluative reactions to the result of their effort. Or in this case, people have more positive evaluative reactions to the results of their investments. And the remarkable thing about this graph and what you can see here is that in the UAE, dependent on their motivation, between 70 and 90% of investors are prevention focused. And these numbers are the exact opposite of what we found in Europe. And they show that in the UAE, investment achievement actually is not considered a hope or an aspiration. On the contrary, for the vast majority of investors, it is viewed as a duty or an obligation. We also asked another very straightforward question in our survey with regard to the probability of reaching investment goals. So when we look at the degree of probability investors expected for different types of goals, we see that investors expect overall very high degrees of probability. Over 70% of investors with an achievement or benevolence goal expect even a more than 80% probability of reaching their goal. So to recap, what we've been saying so far, achievement is the number one goal motivation. It's governed by a prevention focus. It's considered a duty. It's also considered an absolute must. So now I think that all you listening will probably be thinking, okay, how do these investors look at risk? Right, and this is where things become difficult, I think, for an advisor in the Emirates, because what we found was that, unfortunately, the higher the required probability, the higher the willingness to take risk actually becomes something to take into account. Let's move on to the second phase. As you can see, we talked about a few insights from choosing goals. Let's look at the second one. This is called the post-decisional phase. The post-decisional phase. Here it's all about planning. It's about specifying the actions you will take in order to reach your goal. Specifying really is a key word here. It says Latham and Locke, two famous researchers in the field of goal setting. What they found out over 35 years ago is that goals that are specific and challenging but feasible lead to better performance than do easy or vague goals. To use another fitness analogy that we used earlier, if my aim is to lose 3 pounds by the 1st of January, which is very specific, I'm more likely to do so than if my aim is just to lose some weight, right? And I think you all understand that specificness is going to enhance my goal pursuit. Now, there's very good news. This is for the financial institutions in the UAE, and the good news basically that investors here are much more specific about their investment goals than their European counterparts. Compared to the Belgians, and put the Belgian flag there on the screen on the right. In our survey, it seems that UAE investors are more likely to have a very specific time horizon in mind, also have a very specific desired end value amount in mind, and also have more often have a very specific return percentage in mind. A very plausible explanation for this would be a social demographic one, I guess, because not surprisingly, in our survey, 86% of the expats in the sample have a very specific time horizon in mind, and among the UAE nationals, this is only 66%, which is more, looking like what we found in Europe. Unfortunately, the news is not all good. There's a catch here, specifically with time horizon, and it has to do with the length of the time horizon. Let me show you. The stated investment time horizon on average, for the entire sample of 770 respondents is just 4 years and 1 month. So as an advisor, you have time to reach an investment goal by December 16th, 2027. For investors up to 26 years old, right, the Generation Z, the time horizon is shorter. It's 3 years and 9 months. For UAE nationals, it's still shorter, right? It's 3 years and 6 months. And the segment with really the shortest time horizon are expats from other or neighboring Arab countries, and that's just 3 years and 1 month. So that's, I think, a very important challenge there. And kind of ironically, but probably not that surprisingly to professionals in the field, investors who envision the longest time horizon are also the oldest. Really strange, but anyway, investors over the age of 50, they've got a 5-year time horizon, and it puts you, exactly to the 16th of November in 2028. Right, another sure sign of goal specificness, because it's that important, is when people form what psychologists call implementation intentions. Now, quickly try to explain. Implemental planning has been in many experiments, really show that is a very good predictor for actual behavior. Implemental planning or implementation intentions are actually very simple if-then plans that you make for yourself. So what you do in your mind is you first predefine a situational cue, like the if something happens, and then you decide what you're going to do when you notice that cue, and that's the then part of your plan. So say that I have a very concrete goal, like running the London Marathon in less than 5 hours, then I can start planning toward it. I could set implementation intention that, you know, if it's Wednesday evening, then I'll go and train in the park with my friend Rafa here. All right, this is very good plans that I can make for myself. You can do the same thing for investing. For example, if I say, you know, if I have over $15,000 in my saving account, then I will transfer the excess money, you know, to my investment account. And you can automate behavior in this way if people repeat the same activities. In our survey, what we did is we tested about a dozen of such implementation intentions and asked respondents to which extent they would commit to adding more money to their investment portfolio if a certain situation were to happen. Half of those situations stemmed from an event in the life of the investor. 2 examples here, for instance, if I pay for something with my card, then I will round up and invest the spare change, right? Or if I get my salary at the end of the month, then I will put a percentage of it in my investment account. The other half basically stemmed from events in the market. For instance, if there is a market correction and instruments become cheaper, then I will, or if indicators show a positive trend for a certain market or industry theme, then I will invest. So the numbers that you see here are the percentages of people who have indicated to say yes to these implementation intentions. Yes, I would like to do that. The first column in blue is just based on earlier research with 1,000 investors in the Netherlands, just as an additional reference point. The one thing that is immediately clear is that a lot of UAE nationals claim to be willing to commit to most intentions. But important, what I want to say here is that one size doesn't fit all. Just, for instance, look at this one, right? 68 of Western expats in the Emirates, on average, say that, yes, if there is a market correction, then I'll invest more money. It's a cue for me to act. But if you ask the same question to expats that are motivated by stimulation, so people who say that they are, you know, they invest in order to beat the market, well, then you see that the market correction is actually a much more appealing cue for them to take action. So cues need to be tailored for the individual. Okay, our time is short, so I'll be going to share a few more findings from the third phase of the Rubicon model of action phases. Now we're talking about acting, and it's all about putting your intended plan into action. In literature, you will find paper after paper really confirming that implementation intentions, like we described earlier, are the most immediate predictor of behavior. But we all know that a lot of good intentions just remain unfulfilled. And why is that? Well, one of the reasons is what we know as the intention behavior gap. And it appears when people do not have self-efficacy to turn their intentions into action. And when we say that someone has the self-efficacy to invest, it means that he or she has the right tools to do so, and also has the right level of support to do so. So looking at tools first, the right tools to create self-efficacy. We focused in our research really on digital investment tools because we provide those tools, and we proposed 5 different options and then asked respondents which solution they would use to invest their money. I'll go through the list here. The execution only option really is what you all know as a digital trading platform. A robo standard, you see there is a plain robo advisor. It produces a portfolio based on your risk profile, time horizon, and so forth. The robo tracker option has a specific extra quality that it helps you define your goal and then guides you towards it and helps you decide on the right actions to take to ultimately reach your goal. A robo tilting is also a robo, but has the extra option of giving users this ability to tweak the portfolio, so you can define your exposure to regions, industries, sustainability metrics, etc. And then finally, the human hybrid option that we described there, There's something different. It's where a human being creates a portfolio, then provides the client with a digital tool, like an app, so that this person can see how well the portfolio is performing. Right. What you see here are the preferences of investors with different volumes of investable assets. And I just want to highlight two things here. The first is that on average, 20% of investors in UAE are of the execution-only type. And this number is actually the same thing that we measured in all the way up north in Helsinki and Brussels. Wherever we did the research so far, we always find this 1 in 5 investors has this DIY profile. The second is that the standard robo-advisor option that you see in the matrix there, this option seems less appealing to investors than the options that allow them to manipulate the tool in different ways, by setting goals and changing time horizons, risk profiles, choosing markets, setting preferences, and so forth. In interviews that we did in Dubai, we learned that people are actually they're actually aware that the algorithm will be much better at calculating the odds and actually reaching the investment goal. But emotionally, people still want some kind of control over the machine. We describe the whole psychology behind this behavior in our white paper that you can download. But rule of thumb is that I would say that giving investors at least a feeling of control, that they see the effect of their own actions, will greatly benefit the engagement with any kind of an investment app. In the survey, we not only asked people about digital tools they would like to use or would prefer to use, we also asked about what level of service they would like to have to come with those tools. And we basically proposed 4 answer options. The first one is how, the question there, how would you prefer to go about investing, etc. The first one is I'll do it all myself. DIY. The second is I do it myself, but I get some professional help to do it right. Third, have someone do it for me, but have a say in it. And the fourth one, have someone do it for me, so I don't have to do anything. Over to the results. In the survey, basically what you see here is 2 things that I wanted to highlight. It's not, I think, surprising that the execution-only investors are, for the vast majority are people saying, I would love to do it myself. But the second thing that I would like to share with you is the number of people who have a preference for a robo-advisor, who say that they would like to have some professional help in setting this up. And I think this is this almost puts banks in pole position to start marketing these kinds of products, because really what people expect is a combination between a tool and a level of service or someone to help them to do it right. Okay, I'd like to go into a next part, right? If you're building propositions for a robo-advisor, I think it's important to have product and add service to that proposition. But in our survey, we went further. So we presented the 770 investors, and specifically also the investors who liked a robo-advisor solution, with a list of 16 elements that can be used to create a robo value proposition. And from those 16, we found that 6 elements really came out on top as the most important for UAE investors. And to finish off, I'll show you which elements are key. 2 key elements refer to the ability of the client to find trust and support in a financial institution that offers the service. And so what people highlighted there as most important is the trust and reassurance of working with a bank I know and have a relationship with. Or a client service desk where I can get help for all the technical and administrative issues that I may have. 2 elements of those 6 refer to the ability to exert a certain degree of control and have power over the tool. And those 2 elements were the ability to redefine the amount, the time horizon, priority status of an investment goal along the way. And secondly, the ability to tilt or tweak my portfolio so I can customize it further, focus on industry, country, etc. And then the final 2 elements really refer to the ability to leverage advanced mathematics to optimize financial decision-making. The two elements that people highlighted in the survey was to have an app that helps me assess the feasibility of my investment goals. And secondly, an intelligent algorithm that automatically optimizes my portfolio so that I don't have to do all the work. So as you can see from the screens and the images that I just showed you, we have included, or we're actually busy building features into our robo product specifically to satisfy those very particular user needs. And I'd love to hand over to Michelle now, who can tell you more about the robo-advisor that Franklin Templeton and InvestSuite have created. So over to you, Michelle.
Thank you, Sven. Thank you for sharing all the insightful research. It's always helpful to see how things are perceived locally. So to close things off, together with InvestSuite, we created a very intuitive, personalized, and dynamic robo-advisory journey with the objective to coach investors and help them reach their financial goals. We're addressing the essence of the research that Sven just shared with you, considering the required key elements to be successful and to contribute to investors' ability of reaching those financial goals. The value we bring is the cutting-edge technology, experience, and research capabilities of InvestSuite, combined with the investment expertise and the unique goal optimization engine of Franklin Templeton. If you're interested in exploring and discovering how this could add value to your business model, we'd be more than happy to set up a call to show you a demo and walkthrough of this exciting journey. Joyce, I'll turn it over to you to close things off.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Michelle. And first of all, thank you to Sven for sharing, of course, the detailed research and the work that you've done in UAE on the drivers as well as the motivations for investors, and then also transferring that into what does that really mean for future strategies from a financial institution point of view. And of course, to Michelle, thanks for providing an example of the tools which we can bring at InvestSuite and Franklin Templeton to financial institutions that they can leverage. They can leverage to kind of put into power some of the research that we talked about today. We have perhaps time for one question. So just one moment here. So you mentioned versus the research, this is for you, Sven, sorry. You mentioned versus the research that you've done in the past, that goals are quite specific in the UAE. Do you have a possible explanation for that?
Well, we spoke to a number of people, experts also in the country. We did quite a lot of video interviews with hours and hours of video interviews of people trying to explain these things. And one of the reasons I think is has to do with the transient nature of a lot of the people living in UAE with this large expat community. It is pretty clear for a number of people how many years they will be there. And from what we see here, they are there to make money. Right, so the achievement motivation, I think, is because people are there in order to make money, and they've got specific dates, and they even have a specific plan for the future after being an expat in Dubai. So they know exactly how much money they would like to have by when, and it's a huge difference from what we see in Europe, where people invest for security and conformity needs, which is more about maintaining your wealth, or for self-direction needs to be able to say, like, I would like to stop working when I like instead of when my employer says that I can, right? So people want this financial independence, and it's a very different motivation. But I think it's important to know this, and I think that just designs that you use, or screens, or even graphs that you use, or here in Brussels where we are not going to be the right types of graphs or images that you're going to use in UAE, in the Emirates.
Yeah, it sounds like the power of really quantifying and having those specific details within your goal in the UAE is more powerful. Not that it's not powerful in Europe as well, but it really would be quite useful. All right. Thank you. I think that's it for questions for now. So thank you very much for that question. As Michelle mentioned, you can see here the contact information for myself as well as Michelle. Please reach out to either of us if you'd like to know more, or in the meantime, feel free to download the white paper with the results and as well as the insights from the research that was done in the UAE, as well as some of the other material which you can find on our website. We will be sending up a follow-up email to everyone who attended, as well as those who may have missed the session with the recording of this webinar if you'd like to watch it again or share it internally. that is it for me. So many thanks for your attendance today. Hope you have a great day, and we will see you at our next webinar.